Great. So over to Sarah now. Sarah, can you hear us?
I can. Great.
Awesome. Great. So just while you're setting up your slides there, if you want to just share your slides in the background, Sara Kuethe has done some great work revamping Google's Customer Advisory Board Google Cloud Customer Advisory Board program since she joined the organization. So Sarah's going to walk us through that evolution today. Oh, Sarah, we did hear you, and then we lost audio. So
it keeps going on mute when I'm sharing.
that's interesting. What I can do is that is an interesting scenario that I haven't come across before. So I can share my slides if you want.
Perfect. No, I got it. Can you see my screen?
No. Hold on. Maybe we can. There's something. It's just black at the moment. So
let's see.
Darn it. Now I can see your screen, but you're on mute again. Now you're
all right. I think I was unmuted. Can you see my screen and I'm not muted?
We have the perfect combination now.
Perfect. I will just say that's probably because I'm at Google Cloud and we do not use Zoom as much to Google Cloud. So thank you, everyone. And I'll just say, having listened to these couple other sessions, so many of the same themes that we see here at Google Cloud, but I'm going to take a little bit of a different approach with this presentation and just share with you our evolution that we've experienced at Google Cloud from when I kind of came on board to where we are now. But by way of introductions, I'm Sara Kuethe. I've been leading the Google Cloud Customer Advisory Board for almost 3 years, but have actually taken an expanded role to look after customer programs and C&I strategic engagements. So I will say that this is, being in a Customer Advisory Board role, you work with so much of the business and you get a lot of exposure to the strategies there. So it couldn't be a really great jumping off point for other roles and more expanded roles. So there's my pitch on the importance and the career development on customer advisory boards. But let me get started. What I really wanted to share today is a little bit about our background, go through what our CAB was solving for, how we measured CAB's success, and then why the CAB is so valuable for your customers. Hopefully I'll have time for Q&A, so let's get going. I think it's fun to always share what your CEO says about customer advisory boards, but I will say this is not how we started our CAB program at Google Cloud, but it's where we are now, and so we're really proud of this. CABs are the vehicle for us to understand where we should focus our investment. That's exactly it. It's kind of what you've been hearing from the other speakers too. Customer advisory boards are a very different type of program, and they truly are to generate insights to drive the future investments and direction of your company. Of course, you nurture relationships. Of course, there's a lot of other secondary benefits, but this is a singular focus on getting those insights and closing that feedback loop. So it's great when we hear our CEO saying that that is the goal of the Customer Advisory Board. But in terms of a timeline, let me just show you where we've been and where we are now. One thing is customer advisory boards are constantly evolving, whether it's your members because there's turnover in different leadership and roles, or within your own company where there's changing in leadership. But the one thing that stays consistent is that if done correctly, it truly will shape the future of your company and strengthen these relationships with key customers. So, 2020, we had a brand new strategy, we brand new leaders. There was a huge focus in Google Cloud to have this voice of customer focus. 2020 was a really tough year. It's also when I started with this team. And so we really were trying to align to this new strategy. Thankfully, again, this was a huge investment by our leadership here at Google Cloud. And so a lot of articles were published around this time saying how we're overhauling our voice of customer. This is a focus. We're extremely enterprise ready, and this is how we're actioning. So that was really great to have that support as we went into the new iteration of CABs. But then again, 2021, we had to align to that new strategy. What we did here was closing the feedback loop. And I will talk about this in a little bit more detail, but that was our singular focus. And that's what we kept communicating with our leaders. We also pulled in industry. This was really top of mind for the business at the time, and it was all digital. So we had to deal through, how do you engage customers in a digital sense and get them coming back? 2022, again, aligned to a new strategy. We had new leaders, so that's always consistent. We then had to relearn how to do in person again. It'd been a couple of years, and this is a new motion for us while still keeping that global focus, which CAB members really want and expect to be a part of. And then it leads us to 2023. Again, right now we are aligned to a new strategy. It's focus and scale, but one thing's consistent again, that closing the feedback loop and the insights. So that's a little trip down memory lane in terms of the past 3 years for us in CABS. So now let's get into what is your CAB solving for? I'm at Google, so it behooved me to show a Google search. I think there's a lot of information out there, but what does that really mean? Bring customers together to share insights to the organization. For us, it meant truly aligning on what are our primary needs and then what are the secondary benefits. Now, I say benefits because sometimes I've heard a lot of you that your CAB program sits within the marketing organization. For us, we're within go-to-market. And we've evolved where we've sat within customer success and now go-to-market. When you're at marketing program, there's a lot of different metrics that you're trying to measure. This is very different though than a CAB. So for us, our number one need that we're solving with this type of program was to drive present and future investments. And how do you do that? Well, you need to be able to ready and action these action items. You need dedicated resources from across the business to support you in this motion. You need to make sure that you have information that's not available for public consumption that you can share with your CAB members. What is the reason that they want to attend? It's because they are a trusted customer. They've made an investment in you, and part of their career success is based on the success of your company. So they want to know things before the general public knows. And then, of course, the alignment with senior leadership. These are your advocates. These are your presenters. I say presenter, but it's really, these are the owners of the sessions who are asking questions of customers. And then, of course, there's secondary benefits. So you're nurturing relationships with these customers. Absolutely. You're bringing them together. You're investing a lot of money sometimes to bring these customers and have these programs. They become brand champions. They want us to be seen as leaders of their respective companies within Google. So they want to present at your marketing events. They want to do these different peer-to-peers. They want to network with their peers. And of course, we do provide world-class programming as part of being a part of Google Cloud. So these are all those secondary benefits that our customers, they expect that this is going to happen, but they're singularly focused as well that what they say and what they tell us is going to influence the direction of our company. So with that, we aligned on what our CAB priorities are. And for us at Google Cloud, we're pretty strict in having our OKRs and our KPIs that then go up into those OKRs. So from an OKR perspective, it came down to 3 things, which we socialized, we shared, and we really started all of our monthly business reviews, quarterly business reviews to make sure we're hitting on this. Number 1, I don't mean to sound like a broken record, but it's providing actionable insights to influence and validate our technology and business strategy while closing the loop with customers. Closing the loop with customers, and we'll go through this gambit, that really means saying, hey, here's what we heard from you last time, and here's what we're either doing about it, or here's what we're not going to be doing about it. You don't have to actually solve for everything customers say. They tell us a lot, but you do need to be able to recognize that this is what was told and react to that. Our number 2 priority, building brand champions and nurturing relationships. And number 3 is that delivering world-class programming. Of course, we want to delight our users and give them a really great experience, but that is very much number 3. And so when I think about my team and how they're spending a lot of their time, the strategy is really in this number 1, and then you get more into the tactical and execution as you get into 2 and 3. All right. So all great, fine and dandy, that's what we're doing. How do you actually measure this? Which can sometimes be a little bit difficult. So for us, closing the feedback loop, I do want to spend a little bit of time just to share what this truly means to us at Google Cloud. So from a Google leader perspective, the outbound is they have clear questions that they want to address with CAB members. So I caught myself, I even said presenters. Your Google leaders are not presenters. They're the ones who are helping to facilitate that session, and they truly have a list of questions saying that this is what I want to get out of this session. Here's what I need to know from customers that I don't know otherwise to be able to drive my part of the business forward. And then from an inbound perspective, after they hear that feedback, they need to be the ones to prioritize what insights they are going to follow up on. Where are they going to be pulling together a tiger team to be able to solve these questions? Some of them are a little bit easier than others. Some of them are cross-organization that we need to solve for. But you do need to have that alignment at the senior level to be able to say, this is what is important to me, and this is what we need to do as an organization. Now, your Google subject matter experts, these are usually direct reports of your Google leaders or on the teams. They tend to be either like outbound product managers, sometimes like engineering directors, but these are the ones that you're partnering with to create some of the content. At the end of the day, we are sharing our future products, solutions that we're thinking about building. And so with that, you do need a little bit of content to be able to provide context. I will say we've tried a lot to do pre-reads in advance and share this. We've had some mixed success on whether or not customers are actually going to consume that and come prepared to just be ready to give feedback. And so it definitely behooves us to go through that in a little bit of detail. And then from an inbound, they take a lot of these action items. Now, action items are very different than an insight. Sometimes an example of an action item is, hey, I need to be connected to this type of engineer to bring this workload forward. Great, something super simple that we can just connect the dots on because we're connected, compared to an insight, which is, hey, you all need to think about this area or this investment, or we're not going to be successful. So just a little bit different, very important, both of them, and we track both, but different in terms of the timeline and how fast it is to action that. And then your CAB members, again, from an outbound, they're the ones that are generating the ideas, and inbound, these are members that are updated on the actions and the actions that are taken. This was so important to us to close the feedback loop. And again, this was an evolution for us at Google Cloud, that CABs are truly meant to close this feedback loop, that we did an entire rebranding exercise. So all of our collateral, our presentations, you will see this feedback loop. And it was just a visual representation that, hey, this is so important to us, CAB member, that we are absolutely going to close that feedback loop with you. The goal of this meeting is to hear your insights and to take some action to shape our future. So again, I am a marketer at heart, and that is what I brought to the team when I started 3 years ago. Next was developing and agreeing to a process. So, you have these customers, they're talking a lot. Sometimes like our meetings are 2 days, or we'll have like digital meetings in between them. So what happens with that information after the actual CAB meeting? So for us, we generate 3 different things. A transcript. This isn't to say that we record our meetings, but we do have someone who is transcribing, a professional transcriptionist, to make sure that we are capturing the insights. Number 2 is a CAB summary of the main themes. This is when we connect with each of those different session leaders to say, hey, here's what we heard. What was your main takeaway? And you quickly are able to come up with what that summary and the key actions from that specific session. And then 3rd is the customer action items that we discussed. So what do we do with the transcripts? We're Google Cloud, we're extremely data driven, and there's a lot of different avenues to get customer insights across the organization. So we actually have this engine, Customer 360, where CABs are one of the contributors. Surveys are one of the contributors. Support tickets are one of the contributors. From here, it actually comes up with a lot of different themes across the organization so that we can say, yes, CABs are a select number of customers, usually from our highest revenue at the company, but there's a lot of other feedback coming through. And so we want to make sure we understand what the themes are from all of our customers. So we use our transcript to fuel this Customer 360. Now from the summary from the CAB, and also we end up coming up with business impact discussions from the CAB. So potentially we will have follow-up meetings to get into more details and to get more insights that we can follow up. And then we come up with these cross-CAB summaries. Again, something for us that we've come up with is, enterprise readiness, cost. These are themes that we see across all of our CABs. And so we want to make sure that we are coming up with a cohesive story there for our senior executives versus always presenting just from a CAB by CAB perspective. And then finally, from our follow-up in the meetings, we do present in our CBRs, our business reviews. We share our insights with the voice of customer team. And then we do create these end of year reports where we pull through everything that we've heard. So there's a lot of different assets that are created, and there's a lot of different leadership insight channels so that all of this content can be shared. We're pretty strict with who sits within a customer advisory board, like physically sits or even digitally listens in, because the more people that we find that customers aren't going to be as willing to share and be candid. But by keeping it really tight and intimate, we will get that candor and the insights we're looking after. But that's not to say that more people within the organization should hear what's happening. So we make these transcripts and summaries readily available. And we let our CAB members know that because they also want to be heard. That is why they agreed to a CAB member seat. Okay. Quantifying, measuring, and reporting. So we have a scorecard. This is what we do in our monthly business reviews and our quarterly business reviews. We measure these key priorities. This is how we also help keep ourselves and our leaders accountable when we're tracking the number of insights closed, the action items closed. Insights can be tricky because oftentimes it will take longer than 6 months to be able to action, and that's okay. That's usually why you have some CAB members that sit on it for longer, and you have different leaders who can be a part of it. But it is important to track. We do identify where we're lagging, we need additional support, and then we continually reassess, revisit, and report. We do this in terms of metrics from a qualitative and a quantitative perspective. I've found that when we're presenting to our senior leaders, the quantifying and the number is important, and it shows the impact of your entire customer advisory board organization. But when you really pull through that quote or what the customer is saying and remind them, that's what's sticky. And that's really how you're going to get your executives to align and recognize the importance. Okay. So why is a CAB so valuable for you and your customers? From a value to CAB members, again, they're here to be strategic and to influence. They want to influence the future of Google Cloud, and they want access to our Google leadership. So we do put together a CAB member benefit and expectation document. It is not legally binding, although we did work with legal to craft this, but it just kind of shares what their benefits are for being a part of the CAB, and also what are some of the expectations that we have for sitting on this CAB. Now, when we're sharing roadmaps and some of these future looking, we do require NDA, but that's tackled by a different org. But to receive that, I will say some things do need to be under NDA because we don't want leaks into the future of what we're going to be creating. Now, from a programming perspective, this is when we're pulling through these CAB members throughout all the other engagements that we've had. Now, many of you, again, I see sit within marketing, so you're maybe more aligned to different marketing events, but us too, we partner with marketing all the time to make sure that our CAB members are seen as thought leaders at these events, that they're presenting at the main stage. And so what we do is we create this curated CAB member engagement for the full year to help them prioritize and decide what they want to be able to attend and also get exclusive access to. And then finally, and then hopefully we'll see some questions that are popping up, the value to the organization. I was told by my boss at the time, the leader of our customer advisory boards and CA&I, customer advocacy and insights, that when a customer quotes you back, this is when you see success. And so we're really excited and proud to see that a customer is telling us that one of the best investments and one of the most impactful moves was to create a customer advisory board, because this has been a successful mechanism to hear from us and to drive the strategic investments. So I'll just say for us, this is when we were like, wow, we must really be on the right track, that customers recognize what we're doing. They see that we're hearing what they're telling us, and we're making changes to the organization. So with that, I can open it up to questions.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Sarah. Lots of great ideas in there. Awesome. And we actually have plenty of time for questions. We've got 10 minutes now for questions. So I hope you're ready for this. We'll start off with some easy ones. How about that? People are keen to know, basically membership term. How long should the CAB members be on the board for? What do you see?
Yeah, we hold our membership at 1 year, but I would say when you're deciding how long a membership should be, it's really about the maturity of your organization. Now, for Google Cloud perspective, backing up 3 years, we're in a very different place than we are now. And so with that, we saw a lot of turnover in who is spending the most when it comes to our customer base versus where we are now. So for us, we did need that flexibility to change or to potentially, keep who the CAB members were. But it's a 1 year engagement. And after 1 year, some of them we do invite back. Sometimes we do see change in who those executives are. We've had different numbers of customer advisory boards over the years, but there's different personas at each level. Many times you will see executive turnover. And so we do need to reassess who those people are going to be. We also, though, we're a data-driven company. So we look at who attends each of the meetings. And it's not just attending, but who has made impactful and provided insights that are driving the business. If you're attending and not speaking, that's going to be an issue. If you're attending, but you're just, disruptive, or you're taking us in a different direction, that's an issue. I'll say that doesn't happen as much, but we do look to see about engagement, and not everyone is getting what they need out of the board as well. And so we develop relationships with these customers. We can have candid discussions. We have heard, hey, I attended this board. This is at either too high of an altitude, too low of an altitude. I'd be better suited at, that higher CIO, CTO board, or no, I really need to be in that infrastructure cab because this is more aligned to what I have responsibilities for and what I want to provide feedback on. And so I'd say because of that, we do have flexibility, but that cab member benefit expectation doc outlines a 1-year engagement.
Got it. And talking about the members, what's the process for inviting them? What does it look like?
The process. So every year we work really closely with, cross-functional organization, mostly the customer offices in each of the different regions. So for us, we have different customer offices in, North Am, EMEA, APAC, Japan, LATAM. So we work with them to pick out who the accounts are. We get sign off from both of our CAB chairs as well as the senior sales leaders. When it comes to actually picking the executives, it's really a cross-functional effort, and it depends on what type of cab that we are selecting for. But our sales executives, they know their customers the best, and they can really decide who will be the type of person who wants to provide this type of feedback. And again, we've learned over the years, like we've had people nominated and they weren't really the right fit, or they just didn't really want to be a part of this board, and that's okay. We've been able to find other opportunities for them. Potentially, they wanted to just do more like networking events, or they wanted to meet more peers. Great. It's really important though to understand what the needs of your customers are, and then align them with the right type of engagement. And I'll say too, cabs, it's a group setting, and so you as a customer need to feel comfortable to interject and to be able to provide feedback that sometimes is very critical. There's some regions that that's really uncomfortable, and that's not how they like to provide feedback. They would rather provide feedback in a one-to-one setting, or give it to someone more junior who then will provide it to someone who's more senior, which is okay. Every culture and every person is different. So again, I would just say it's really important to understand the impetus and what's coming from behind. Like they might be quiet for a reason, and you can get the feedback in a different way. That's where it's really important for us to pull in the cab feedback into this customer 360. So we are having this holistic view, and it isn't just central to one region specifically, or one cab specifically.
Right. Got it. And who extends the invite?
Yeah, so our team extends the invite usually with our executive chair in partnership. So it truly depends, but who's actually like pressing the button. Again, like we might have it through like the office of, so that we can do a lot of the back end tracking and execution of it. But it truly depends. And at one point we were doing, each board chair had a different way that they like to manage that. So we do need to meet the needs of each of the executive chairs that are leading these boards.
Right. And if the executive chair obviously has close personal relationships with these customers, it's easy for them to pick up the phone and encourage.
Yeah, exactly. But it's really interesting, that question, because we have, we even though our membership terms are 1 year, we do have cab members who sit on boards year after year, and we've seen them also in their evolution as they have become more senior in the organization. So they might start out at a technical like advisory council, and then now they're the CXO or CIO of that company, and so they'll be at our CIO CTO board. So we've worked with them for a long time, and we've developed those relationships. And so oftentimes when it comes to some of the marketing programs, which are more like a leader's circle or an executive forum, it will be our team that will actually extend the invitation to them to say, hey, we think that you'd be really great to be a speaker at this program. And so because we have that relationship, we will send that out. And that is really coordinated with the marketing team. And it's been beneficial to everyone to make sure that we get the right people in the right programs.
Yeah, great. Awesome. That's another adjacent benefit then for the customers, if they can start off on a technology advisory board and end up on a C-level advisory board. It's good for career progression for them as well, the contacts they make, and both in your company with their peers. Okay, then a few more questions. Any tips on how to? Oh, and actually, the process for creating agendas. That's a good question. How do you actually? I know you mentioned the concept of getting the questions answered, the unanswered questions. Any other tips you've got? What is the actual process you go through? The steps you go through when you create that agenda?
Yeah, and again, it depends on the board that we have. Some executive chairs know exactly what they want to do and need for that meeting, but I'll take the example of our CIO CTO board. We tackle that one in several different ways. One, it's the needs of the business, so of Google Cloud and what questions we have in respective technology areas or potentially in respective industry areas that we need answered. But then we also go to the customers. And so within our customer advisory boards, we have a smaller steering group. We're actually expanding that to make sure we are hearing from all customers, but we ask them, what is top of mind for you that you want to be providing feedback on? What do you want to hear? And so then we'll synthesize these reports. Usually those take the place of an interview 3 months before the meeting. And then we'll take their list, the customer list, and then our Google Cloud executives, and we'll try to marry the two to make sure we have a really good mix. We also do utilize breakouts so that we'll have different tracks. For us, we find that what we call digital natives or companies born in the cloud, they have a lot of different issues than what we consider like traditional enterprise or companies that have been more maybe brick or mortar. And so because of that, we'll have different tracks aligned that way. Similarly, when it comes to industry, some industries have similar themes, specifically the ones that are like highly regulated, like healthcare, financial services. Some of those themes are very similar compared to some of the other industries that the issues are different. So we really look at the customers too to see, great, just because these two industries, it's really important to them, we might need to create a track compared to the broader issues that are coming up.
Right. So within the same CAB meeting, you can break out by industry or maybe how innovative different groups are. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. And so over the past couple of years, we've had between 2 to 3 different tracks, and we customize the agenda for each customer based on what will resonate with them. Now, I will say in our move to in-person, it changes that a little bit, but in a digital sense, we got pretty good and pretty easy at moving people around. And it's also a really good way to break up the group and have people meet each other in a digital sense. And I will say we do also use these meetings after the CAB. So you'll get a lot of high-level themes, even in a 2-day meeting. If you're meeting 8 hours a day, you'll basically just kind of scratch the surface of some of the feedback. So it's really important then afterwards you say, great, we're going to do a follow-up. We're going to be really selective with just a couple of customers and bring them together to really uncover some of the issues there. And that's how we move the insights forward to be able to solve for them. So I think about like a funnel. You get all these insights at the top, then you kind of narrow it down to, okay, these are the ones that we're actually going to action that are important to us. From there, you have then these kind of working groups, not always owned by our team. In fact, oftentimes not owned by our team, but then that's when you have those subject matter experts and those different leadership teams that are working with customers specifically. And then you get the end of the phone, then you get your end result, then you communicate it back to the CAB meeting at the next one where you say, great, here was the process that we went through, here's what we're doing about it. Let's now get feedback on what we've proposed as a solution to the broader group.
Great. Yep, there's a lot involved. Okay, that was great. Thank you so much for sharing. We're going to wrap up now, but before we do, a question everybody has been asking is, are we going to share these slides? And the answer is no, but what we are going to do, we're recording the sessions and we are going to share the recordings with everybody who registered. So again, thank you very much, Sarah. Really appreciated hearing your insights, and I know everybody else did too.